Hello and welcome to the Supercharge Your Sales Velocity podcast, the show where I help you drive more opportunities, bigger deals and faster wins. If you're watching this on YouTube, please subscribe to the channel and perhaps give a thumbs up if you enjoy the show. I'm Fergal O'Carroll and my guest today knows how to build winning sales teams. He even wrote the book on it. Andy Jaffke is a VP of Sales and he's an award-winning sales leader with 30 plus years of experience across global markets. He's the co-author of Teams Win Championships, and he's a big believer that success in sales is never a solo act. A passionate coach, mentor, and an AI enthusiast, Andy blends process-driven sales leadership with forward-thinking tools to drive results. Andy, welcome to the podcast. It's great to have you on.
Yeah, great. Thank you for inviting me. It's really a pleasure to share some time with you. It's a long time we didn't have that opportunity. Last time we saw each other in London. So
Yes.
great is on this time it's virtual, and hopefully in the next future we can meet up in person again.
Yes, I definitely need to get out to Madrid and have another delightful meal with you somewhere in the city center of Madrid. Listen, Andy, you and I have worked together in the past. We've been colleagues. We haven't worked together in a while. So I want to do a little bit of a catch up. Okay. So I'm aware that you're currently managing a sales team. You're running, let me get this right, Spain, Portugal, Benelux. And for those who don't know what Benelux is, Belgium, Netherlands, Luxembourg, and you've also snuck France in there as well, right? So not a small territory by any means. What I'm really interested in here to help other sales managers understand who might have a similar patch or a similar volume of territory to manage. What is that like? How do you manage your time and how do you manage engaging with your team? Because and what size team do you have, Andy?
Well, first of all, on team, I have 9 account executives, 2 office managers, because obviously we have offices also around these territories. We have a big office in France. We have smaller offices in Amsterdam, Brussels, and in also Madrid. So we also need some staff to support us there. We do not have an office manager for every country, but that means I have 11 direct reports right now, which is a challenge. It's a high number, and you have to allocate time to these people. Otherwise, you won't manage them. You won't give them space for coaching and mentoring. So that is the biggest challenge, because before I managed less people, it was easier. Now I had to review everything. I have to review my schedule. The biggest challenge was I didn't have enough time to really have weekly, bi-weekly catch-up calls, not only with my direct reports, also with my peers, because it's not done with your direct reports. You also have to meet up with other people.
And I know you're passionate about coaching as well. So you've got to squeeze in coaching, right? Because you're not going to sacrifice coaching. You've got the day-to-day work, you've got opportunity management, you're trying to develop forecasts, you're reporting up as well as managing down. So just explain to me how you do all that.
Really, you need a systematic approach. So I think Mike Weinberg said it, you have to own your calendar. As a manager, I think that's the most important thing. You have to really be very, very sensitive about how to use your time and make it really systematic. You cannot just, have ad hoc coaching calls with some of your team members. Won't work. I learned also with Stephen Covey's 7 Habits of Highly Effective People, put first things first. That means putting first things first at the big rocks. The big things have to be in your agenda. And then the small things, they fall in the gaps. Yeah. So you always never get a back-to-back meetings. Always leave 15 to 30 minutes, if that is possible, minimum 15 minutes. So you don't have these back-to-back exhausting experiences.
And that's one way of managing your own team. But how do you manage your own time personally? Because I know you've got this top 3 planner, right? Just tell the audience about the top 3 planner because it's an interesting initiative that you started quite a while back.
The top 3 planner is really about 4 areas of your life you must have under control. It's family, best friends, it is work, it is self-development, and it is health, which means physical, spiritual, and physical health. These are the 4 areas where you need balance. And what happens in life is always that things go up and down. Sometimes you put too much focus on one thing, maybe workaholic, too much on running, marathon crazy. I'm also one of these guys, or whatever. So it helps you really to be self-aware. And self-awareness is everything. If you're aware about how much time you spend for all these things, you will find the balance. But if you don't take notes on it, where you don't know where you are over-investing and where you're under-investing your time.
And it sounds like you need a lot of discipline there, Andy, right? I mean, it's something that I can imagine I would do for a little while and then I'd probably fall away from it because I don't have that discipline, perhaps some weeks or months. And I'm guessing it's just grasping the discipline of those 4 areas that you mentioned, so that you can give yourself the time outside of work, so that you can not just be in work 5, 7 days a week, as some of us are, right?
It's about sharpening the saw. So you really have to make a commitment to yourself that you have time you do not spend on work. You really spend on the things that are outside work, which is family, best friends, and your health. So that is a call to action for everyone out there who is not doing any sports. It can be walking, it can be swimming, it can be whatever. It should be something you can do also in a flexible way. For me, running is fantastic because you can bring my shoes anywhere and can run anytime in any hour of the day and the minutes you have available. That is fantastic, but you have to stick to it.
Yeah. And sometimes you forget your shorts, don't you? And your colleague has to loan you a pair of running shorts. Do you
Yeah,
remember
yeah, I remember that one. Yeah,
that?
honestly, what happened to me in the half marathon world championships, I forgot my pants, and that was a big event, and there were no shorts available in the stores. It was crazy.
And tell
But
me, are you still doing the marathon running?
yes, I am in a very big marathon now. I'm preparing for Berlin. The 21st of September is the race date, and I have never prepared so well. I've just finished 20 weeks of preparation. I'm now going into the final 12 weeks, which will become especially tough because of the volume of kilometers we have to do.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But it's interesting that I mentioned at the top of the show, the size of the territory you're managing, which must involve travel as well, right? You've got 11 people that you're trying to manage. You've got a busy family as well, and yet you're still finding time to carve out, time for your mental health, your physical health. And I think it is a message to all of us that no matter how busy we think we are, there is always some spare time that we can use to help ourselves, right?
Absolutely. Yeah. Again, self-awareness. If you have control over your calendar, there is always space, and you have to make space, and you have to say no. One thing you have to learn is how to say no. If there are meetings rolling in, you are requested to be there, but you will not talk there. You can say no. Also, meetings are recorded. What happens to me many times, I don't even watch them, the recordings, because it was not so important. So you have to learn to say no to things which are not important to you. That frees up a lot of time as well.
That just leads me into another thought in terms of meetings, because I'm hearing people now are starting to say, with AI starting to summarize transcripts of meetings, it can help where you just can't be in every meeting that's going on during the day. Have you any experience of that yet? Is that happening?
Yeah, we really record every single internal meeting, and we summarize with Copilot. So very simple. You record it, you have the transcript, then you have already Copilot summary, copy, you paste it in email, reply to all, and then you can just send it out. Obviously, you review this because there are always some hallucinations. There's misspelled names, or because Copilot, if you have abbreviations or things like that, it misinterprets it. So it takes you 5 minutes maybe, but that is a very nice way to send the summarized meeting minutes out to the people that could attend and the people that could not attend.
And have you been on the receiver end where you couldn't attend a meeting and you were able to read that summary? I'm interested in the practicality. Is it actually working? Because my experience of Copilot, now this gone back a few months, it was that it was just basic. It was probably version one of the offer. Are you finding it basic, or do you think it's just getting a little better?
It is basic. Yeah, it is basic. It depends also what you copy, because Copilot gives you different levels of summaries. You can have a more in-depth description or just the basic standard summary. So there's a navigation you can check for several kinds of summaries for the meeting. So it's not always the first option is the best one. It's the easiest one. Just copy it. But there are summary options that are maybe better suited for a follow-up with a bit more detail. You can add more detail or less detail. Yeah. So we have to figure that out.
Andy, a word that comes to mind when I think of you is passion or passionate, because you always have that the friendly smile on your face. You're very passionate about the things you do in life, but also the things you do in work. And I know coaching is a passion for you as well. Coaching, your direct reports who are managers, and also then they have their team below them as well. So you've got a two-step there. Talk to me a little bit about how you're integrating your passion for coaching into your business, because one of the things I've noticed over time, and I've been guilty of it as well, is that coaching, you start with great gusto and you want to do it. And then just the business just gets on top of you. You just get so busy. Opportunities are coming at you. Forecasts need to be prepared and so forth. And I'm sure a lot of listeners here are in the same boat. You talked earlier, obviously, calendar management is important. I get that. So that's understood. But doing the actual coaching itself, did you have to adapt For instance, you might have wanted to do longer coaching sessions, but maybe you had to adapt them just to accommodate the size of your team now?
Yeah. Yeah, that's a very good question. And honestly, the ideal time frame for a coaching session is 30 minutes. My coaching sessions now are shorter. They're 15 minutes. With one exception, with one AE, have more time because of circumstances, personal things. I had to extend that to make it a bit more longer because he needs now more time for personal problems. And I think that is also something I have to validate. So it's all about empathy, and it comes natural to me, coaching. I have that, I would say, that ability. I've learned the skill to use my coaching skills in the normal business calls I have. Obviously, in the accountability calls I have once per month, that they do not fit. That is a different meeting. It's a different call. But the weekly calls, 50 minutes, are pure coaching calls where I ask questions to help them. And they always come. I say, "Oh, what is what you want to discuss today with me?" That is the question, first question. And then it's done. Yeah, I want to discuss this account. I have this problem. And then we use the 15 minutes effectively for coaching. It's really only coaching. It's 15 minutes fully dedicated to what they want to discuss, not what I want to discuss.
And if I differentiate between coaching and mentoring being more advice based on your own experience and skill sets versus coaching trying to tease, I suppose, a response and an answer from your team members. Do you do a bit of both, or do you feel it's all coaching?
Yeah, we have an official mentoring platform. So I am also mentoring, I have mentored several people because these processes also finish one day. It's not a process that lasts forever. Usually the mentoring process lasts for 6 to 12 months. I've did that already for some colleagues. We have an official platform. So people can request me as their mentor. I have to accept. And then when I accept, when we host these mentoring sessions, then it's totally different. It's obviously about where I've been already, where they want to get, and then I help them with my advice, which is totally different from coaching, as you correctly stated.
Yeah, absolutely. Okay. And I think linked to this, you're developing or have developed a competency-based framework to help your AEs. I'd love to dig into that. Just give me some detail on that, please.
Well, we have been struggling at my company in Terra, obviously with a very tough competition. You know, where we come from, you have been here, you will know what I'm talking about, the transitions, and the company is transforming and changing every time, all the time since I joined the company in 2017. So that then is driving us in a very difficult situation where we have to reinvent ourselves and have to question our skill set, how we do it, how we do business, how do we sell. And so I started now pilot project where first of all I wanted to figure out what are the key skill sets we need and need to address to up level our sales team to be more successful. And there are several things we have to focus on, and one of the biggest things is strategic account planning and management and prospecting. So it sounds like that this has to play obviously in parallel, because if you have a prospect, but the funny thing is, if we talk about strategic account planning, this is for existing customers, not for prospects. So it's a different play. It's really a different game. I also believe that we need different skill sets and different systems to achieve what we need to achieve in both things. So I would really say it's two systems well separated, where some skills you need in both sides, but the focus, if you have a hybrid sales and account executive, you need to be fit on strategic account planning and management, and also be fit on prospecting. That is the biggest challenge. And that is what I want to address now with the pilot project I have here in Teradata. These two.
And it's interesting because one of those is a big passion of mine. Not that prospecting isn't, but strategic account development is something that I've been working on a lot over my career, and more recently in my business, I've developed a framework around that specifically because it's an area I think, and I think your company is pretty good at it, to be honest. But a lot of companies are very poor at strategic account planning. The frameworks are very, I'll call them reactive. In fact, there's probably no framework. So it's just more an ad hoc, almost an individualistic basis in terms of how they work it. Tell me a little more then, just dig into a little bit more about how you're building that your own framework there around strategic account planning.
Well, the strategic account planning has obviously a starting point, which is the strategic account plan as such. But how do you start? First of all, we really simplified this year. I don't know if you remember when you were with us here, we had very long PowerPoint presentations. It was about also Dennis Sørensen brought that in. It was about think big. The think big is still there, but it's now about the big idea of the customer. So it's really leading with value and leading with value for the customer, from the customer's perspective. So it's really put your feet in your customer's shoes and think about, okay, what is the big idea of the customer around what we are offering? We have to be able to analyze that first. And that is the driver for everything we do. And then only if we can align with our products and services, that big idea of the customer in that specific sweet spot and space where we work and deliver, well, then you will be successful. That is the starting point. There's a lot of research to be done, questioning to be done. So you have to really upfront, before you create that plan, you need to know your customer. Know your customers. You have to have meetings, you have to ask questions, you have to read annual reports, and then you have the fantastic AI. And I can only recommend you Gemini of Google. I'm working with that is the best deep research tool out there today to do this quickly and get fantastic information back for your strategic account planning, for your starting point. That does not mean you don't have to talk to the customer, of course, but it gives you a good starting point. So at least you understand what the customer is doing. And if you're clever and you're able to write up your own value proposition, your competitive advantage, the system, Gemini, can align directly what the customer's big idea is, the big strategic lines of work are with your products and services.
If we think back before AI was in our hands and in common use, we would typically go to, say, the company annual report, right? Or we would be just using search prompts ourselves through search engines, and then complementing that with conversations with the client. So almost there's really no excuse these days not to be able to have a really good understanding of what your client is up to in terms of their big initiatives, right?
And what the competition is up to. If you write the prompt up, you really have to dedicate time to write the full prompt, to write the context. You have to give the LLM all the information you have in your head. You put all the competitors that work against you in the field, and you tell them, "Hey, I want to have a comprehensive understanding of my competitor landscape. I also want to know how my partners can help me." And you put the biggest and most important partners in there. Then you put your value proposition and your products and services well defined in there. Then you ask the system, okay, what do you want you to do now for this account? I want the full alignment of what the customer is focusing on, what our competitors are doing, and the partners I have in my hand, how they can support me to make a compelling value proposition for my customer.
That's a good point you make about partnerships because they're crucial to winning deals, particularly enterprise deals that you'd be involved in. And ignoring that as part of your research for the client is not wise. Competitors then as well, because you can't just approach your client strategy without any knowledge of what the competitors are doing in the account as well, right? And then you've got the conversations with the client themselves. And this is interesting to me because what we don't want to do is obviously just kind of rely solely on what we get through an AI. That's interesting in itself and has a lot of value. But talking to the clients themselves. So are you finding that's getting to be a struggle as well? Clients are extremely busy, right? They're not focused purely on your interests in the account. So how do you kind of turn their interest to engage with them? Have you got particular techniques or strategies that you deploy so that you can get into that deeper level of information below the high level initiatives that you're probably aware of through AI?
There's no magic wand here, I'm afraid. It's really about the intimacy you build up, the trusted relationships you build up over time, that customers are willing to talk to you. So you're not the pusher. You're perceived as that trusted advisor we all want to be, we strive to become, but we all know that it's not trust you build over time, long time, with making and keeping commitments. Every time you make and keep a commitment, you win the trust of your customer. So it is not knocking on the door and having a magic phrase or a LinkedIn message that makes you all of a sudden the guru everyone wants to talk to. That doesn't work like that. The intimacy you have to build up from the ground.
And Andy, I can remember going back years, and I'm not sure if it wouldn't have been the first time I heard the phrase, but certainly was the first time I thought people were using it actively was the QBRs. And I know
Yeah,
you're a
yeah.
big fan of those. Tell me more.
Quarterly business review, we're
Yeah.
doing them in Spain. So I was running Spain before I'm running this territory now. We're doing this very, very good. Always is about good preparation, involving the customer in the preparation. So you don't set the agenda alone. You set the agenda always in alignment with the customer that requires upfront. You come up with a proposal. Look, we have that idea. We want to talk about these things. And there's always one point where the customer shares their own projects, programs, and strategies. And then we learn so much. Maybe that's 10 minutes, 15 minutes, and they share with you. If you give them the space, the customer opens and shares with you. If they accept the QBR, they accept the agenda, and that is always the space in the middle of the meeting where they talk about their projects, their programs, and that makes it so valuable. And then usually we get out of this QBR every quarter with 2 to 4 new opportunities, and then customers asking for it. And this is the best sign. They like it. They like it because it's really systematic. It's well prepared. It's about them. It's not about us. You share the information. You help them that they don't have issues. You anticipate problems. You show them the roadmap. You share with them where they are with their stack software and hardware, and when this will be end of life, and they can really anticipate. It's really, really valuable.
And
Fantastic.
QBR is part of your strategic key account planning, right? It's part of that framework.
I would say it's a vehicle to update the plan. Yeah. And it's also often the starting point where we have all the ideas we need to create that strategic account plan. It comes naturally because if you do a QBR, you execute on your strategic account plan, it will be built in naturally. And then with the feedback, you have to adjust again your plan.
One of the most difficult parts I found of building a plan is understanding the value that you are delivering to your clients. And salespeople often get very confused by this. Sometimes they even muddle it up with what the client is spending with them. They think that's somehow related to value, which it usually isn't. Have you any methodologies or strategies there in terms of trying to figure out what value that you're delivering? And I'm talking probably monetary terms, but also just value to the business.
Yeah, we have a role here in Telia as a business value engineer and industry specialist. And we are now really focusing, we have now a synthesis lead with value. And we really prepare to determine the business value of what we are doing. So it's not about how much they spend on Teradata. It's about, okay, if we implement this use case, this Gen AI use case for call center, and we develop it on our platform, what is the impact in time savings you will have in your call center? How many people can you save from the call center team if we did that with technology? That is the way we do it. So we really try to calculate the savings of that kind of use case. It can also be revenue driving use case. If you think about customer experience, if we install a new software solution to really come up with the next best purchase action for a retailer, and you do that with the software, well, that creates new revenue for them. Yeah. That is the value we are talking about. It is either savings and new revenue or combinations of both. That's how we address
I do want to talk to you about your teams win championships. That's the
my
name.
the book. Wow, yeah, that's a
Yeah. Now you've co-authored. So for those who don't know, you've co-authored a book called Teams Win Championships. So I want to hear more about that. What was the experience like of being a co-author, working with other individuals to develop your first book? There we go. Teams Win Championships. Yeah. And sorry, what's the tagline there? What have we got in the tagline there? How to create, learn, and contribute to high performance sales teams. Okay, we need to hear more about that. Tell me.
it's really about what most people forget. When we talk about sales, we look at the account executive. That's the guy who goes all in, he signs the contract, sets the commissions, is the hero. Okay. But who makes the hero? Yeah, who makes the hero? Of course, the sales managers have to be part of that hero making process, but there's much more around it. And especially in enterprise sales. So, I mean, probably you have been with us. You know how many people are involved, support teams, extended sales teams, a dozen of departments, and 20, 25 people often. So how do you win a championship? You need a coach, you need a psychologist, you need a trainer, you need your teammates. Even if you're a tennis player, if you ask Rafa Nadal or Tiger Woods about how they were so successful, they will always say my team. They will never say I did it on my own. I was playing there and I
Do you
won
know
my.
what I find interesting when I watch a bit of golf, and I always hear the golfer at the end, and he talks about, we did this today, we did that today. He or she never talks about them as an individual. They talk about them in as we.
Yeah, in individual sports, it looks like they do everything alone, but everyone always forgets about the preparation. Because when you see a player on the court, that's the final step. But you don't see all the preparation that goes into that. Because if they perform on the field, they've done all the preparation. When I run my marathon in Berlin, the 21st of September, everyone will say, hey, I need a marathon. But nobody knows that I prepared 238 days for this day. And I had up to 80 kilometers a week of running. And I woke up at 6 in the morning and had 20-kilometer runs to do. Nobody knows about it. Nobody cares really, but that is why you will do and perform. It's all about preparation.
And you co-authored this book. So how many others were involved?
5 more. I had that idea. I said, hey, teams with championships. That was always something I was obsessed with, that idea, because I believe in that. I was also a coach, a tennis coach, and I mean, really believe in teamwork, because we always say, if you want to go fast, go alone. If you want to reach far, go together. And that is true for championships. Going far is winning a true championship. So 5 more co-authors. And it was really epiphany. I said, Andy, you cannot do this alone. If you write teams with championships, that has to be written by a team as well. So you have to create a team of writers. And I didn't know any one of them. So I put on LinkedIn a call for authors, for co-authors. That was back in 2020. And then, well, I had 6 volunteers. One of them then did not commit, because I asked for a very strong commitment. Every Saturday we had a call, 1.5 hours for 1 year. So one of them could not commit to it, and sent, but the other guys did. So I had 2 Canadians, 1 American, 1 Italian, 1 Spaniard, and myself. So that was the co-author team. And nobody came out of the same business or role. They were all different. There was an entrepreneur from Canada. There was an ex-Navy official working as an engineer, a COO. Then there was Mattia Bruzzi, an Italian, who was also a sales guy. Pablo Escobar, who works with Teradata, is not the bad Escobar, the good Escobar. He was on board. And Eddie Baez from New York. He works for Gartner. So we all gathered together. The first thing we had to do to create our why. Why are we doing this? So the whole exercise of creating this team of writers was what we were also going to share. And that is what I did, by the way, Fergal, under your leadership back in 2019. It was that fantastic team, Pulsar, that was the best European commercial sales team. That is the story. The Pulsar story is really the story of this book, where I wanted to share that in a book. And that is the reason why I did it, clearly.
That's an excellent story. Now, you've been in sales probably about 30 years, right? Is that fair?
It
And
makes me old, but true.
don't worry, I'm the same age, so you're all right.
No,
You're
it's all good.
you're in good
I
company
honestly,
here.
I'm in sales since I'm in business. I always related to
Exactly.
sales. My own
And
company I created in '96. Yeah, it's true. It's 30 years. Yeah, almost.
yeah, it flies by in some ways, right?
Yeah.
But on the other hand, you'll have seen what works and you'll have seen what doesn't work. And there's certain principles, I'm sure, that you've built up over the time, over those 30 years, that have just remained the same. So can you share a few of those?
When it comes to sales, you really have to focus on the customer. I mean, you cannot just ignore what the customer needs. There's no transaction without a win-win. So you have to understand what the customer really needs. And in terms of what he really needs and how you can align with your products and services. It depends who you work for, the products and services you have, but you have to clearly understand, okay, what am I fixing for my customer with what I offer? That is the starting point for every salesperson. You have to invest time in that. So if you don't understand your customer first and the pain points they have and where they are, you won't sell. And also you won't have good conversations. What do you want to talk about? You say, hey, we are great, we are Teradata, we sell this and that, we are multi-cloud, blah, blah, blah. You know what? They don't care. They don't care. They want to understand, hey, these guys understand me, my business, and they can actually help me with what they have. That is the core message here. And then it's all about building trust further. Trusted relationships. Commit and follow up on your commitment. Commit and follow up on your commitment. You fail once, you lose 5. It's really like the emotional bank account of Stephen Covey. Every time it takes ages to build this up, but just takes a second to destroy it. So you should never destroy your trust relationships.
And I think sometimes we're under such extreme pressure to deliver on targets, and time pressure is everything. And we try to skip, don't we? We try to maybe skip that process of building trust, which will take time, because simply we're just under so much pressure to try and deliver results. And we're also skipping ahead in terms of understanding what the client is about, to your point there. And again, earlier you mentioned strategic account planning for those existing clients. It does take time. It's a process, there's a whole framework to follow, and it can seem daunting, but it is worthwhile in the end putting in that effort, right? Because, and it all feeds into what you're talking about, teams winning championships. The key account planning, again, is all about teamwork. It's about having a joint vision with the client. It's not just your vision, it's a joint vision between you and the client, that they must share that vision with you, right?
That is one of the key aspects you just said. If we talk about the team in sales, the client is part of the team. The client is part of the team. It's not the provider's team. It's the client. It's the partners. It's the sales team. This really, that is in the book is about that. We really clarify, hey guys, this is not about the company selling the sales team and extended. There is the customer. He's part of the team. You forget about that, you're done. Yeah, you won't sell. You will always be struggling with that.
Tell me that phrase again. So if you want to go fast, go alone.
Yeah, if you want to go fast, go alone. You want to reach far, go together.
You want to reach far, go together. I love that. That's a great phrase.
Reach far, go
I'm gonna
together.
I'm
That
gonna
is,
use that if I can.
yeah,
I love it.
it's a good one. Yeah.
Talk to me about embracing this new future ahead of us in terms of Gen AI, right? Because we've already touched upon it a few times. I'm very excited about the use of Gen AI in terms of using it as my 24/7 assistant. My constant refrain is, don't use it to replace your own critical thinking and your own thought processes. Use it to assist, and you can speed up your entire sales process and basically give yourself more time to sell. Talk to me a bit about where you see Gen AI going and what you're seeing in the industry now.
You know that I've been committing myself to become an expert in AI for my own field for sales. So I'm on it since it came out in September 22 and ChatGPT arrived. I'm on it. Did a master right now for artificial intelligence and innovation in Spanish here in Spain. I've just finished it and I learned a lot. And my take on Gen AI specifically, not we're talking not AI and machine learning, which is all the algorithms we know from before that are really helpful for predictive analytics and prescriptive analytics. That is also, by the way, still driving 75% of the value right now, not Gen AI. Gen AI is just the future. So let's talk about Gen AI a bit. Gen AI came to us in form of large language models. So large language models have been built to understand natural language, text, and not calculations. So people should understand that that is where they're strong at. So you can LLMs do great summarizations, write and rewrite texts, and all this is very, very beautiful, but it's not the final thing. And then if you know that they still have hallucinations, if you think about agentic AI passing one AI process, passes information to the next with 2-3% of failure, to the next 2-3%, it multiplies, then you get big garbage out of it. So again, Gen AI is only as good as the purpose you use it for. So use it wisely for things it has been built for, and also understand and reach out to the new AIs that are coming, which are made for calculations, for instance, because ChatGPT is not done for calculations. There's still these good old tools like calculators on your phone, which work better than the LLMs for doing calculations. So give it a try. Give it some little complex multiplication, division, or whatever, and try it out. How many different results you get. So don't use it for calculations. Use it for text-based support. And I believe it will be my assistant, of course, to make me more productive on all these tasks, but not on everything, and will not replace my communications with my customers or my teams.
No, and again, it's a refrain I have. Don't send Gen AI output to your clients or even your team members. By all means, use it to assist you to send those communications out. There's nothing wrong with that whatsoever. But if you're dumbly just asking it to respond to a situation with pure AI output, eventually you'll get caught out with that, and it's not clever anyway. But it's fraught with danger, I think. So a good warning message there. I'm going to finish up, and I want to talk about your newsletter because you've recently moved your newsletter from a successful stint in LinkedIn. I know you've moved it to Substack. What's going on
Yes.
there?
Yes. Well, honestly, I was a bit disappointed with the algorithm of LinkedIn. If you think about, you have 7,000, whatever, 500 followers, and then your LinkedIn newsletter, you have 1,600 followers, subscribers on the newsletter. And when you send a newsletter out and you get like 5 or 6 reactions, they think, how is it possible? If you have written a good piece, it's not delivered. So you never know how many people get your newsletter. And I thought it is really arbitrary, this whole system. It's not delivering the newsletter to all the people that have subscribed. The algorithm decides who gets exposure to your newsletter and who does not. And that is also true for all the posts you write. If you share something, you usually get very low interaction because it has already been posted before, which is okay. But also, if you write a post in LinkedIn and add too many mentions of people, the exposure goes down and down and down because it's interpreted as spam or an intent to spam. And so you have to be very careful how you write on LinkedIn. So I will use LinkedIn going forward for promoting Teradata, writing articles about that. But my sales newsletter will stay in Substack, even if I have maybe only 15 subscribers yet, but I will build it up step by step. I really care about the right audience now. And also, I know that many people have just clicked accept because it came in and they're not really interested in the content. So I decided that that's a long journey. So it's not something I did just for getting quick win. It's just the opposite. I want to build it up again from scratch beautifully.
I want to finish with a question around the sales profession that we're in. Both of us have been in sales a long time. We skipped a number of years. We already mentioned that. But how do we encourage the younger generation, we'll call it, those 20 somethings to get into sales?
Yeah, I had a beautiful experience. I was called when there was an opportunity to volunteer in the school of my daughter. She's 17 now. She's going into her last year. And I had the chance to talk about the sales profession. And I was sitting there on one of these tables, and then all these young people came in, sometimes groups. Hey, what are you doing? Sales, what is it? Tell me. And I said, yeah, what is the about? I said, you know what? It's really about helping people. And the beauty of it, if you really want to help people with the products and services you have, just make sure you're in a good company with good products and services. You know that's good stuff. Then what you will do, you will help people with this. And then you get paid, and you get paid more because they're commissions. You can make fantastic money helping people. Isn't that fantastic? And that is all what sales is about. You help people really solving problems, you get paid very well. And you have the commission said, guys, you can go to Winner's Circle, President's Club if you do it well, but you must be passionate about people. Otherwise, you're not the right person. You must love to be engaged with people. Yeah.
And our number one job in sales is to help the customer win. That's ultimately it. And it's been a pleasure talking to you. Just to finish off, where can people find you? Maybe where are you hiding it on LinkedIn? What about your Substack? Just give us a bit of info on where people can find you.
I think if you go to my LinkedIn profile, you go directly in there, there's a link, newsletter. If you click there, you're on Substack directly.
We've
Directly
got a
links
link
to
in there.
Substack. So it's the easiest
Fantastic.
way is you find me on LinkedIn. It's Andy Jaffke, just Andy with Y, and you can hit me up there, connect with me, and then I'm happy to
Terrific.
talk to you.
So we'll have those links in the show notes. Andy, thanks again. I appreciate you taking the time out of a very busy day. I know you're a busy guy there. We mentioned your massive territory that you're trying to manage. So again, thank you very much. Your insights have been fabulous. Really appreciate you coming on the show. Thanks.
Thank you so much for having me today, and wish you good luck with the podcast. Thank
Thanks,
you.
Andy.